Now the IFP is today marking its 50th anniversary at a rally in Ulundi in northern KwaZulu-Natal. 30,000 people have turned out for the event, which is a celebration of the party and the legacy as well as strides made by its late founder, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. And speaking a short while ago, IFP leader Velenkosini Hlabisa says the 50th anniversary celebration of the party actually marks a great legacy and a testimony of perseverance. And Hlabisa says when all political parties were silenced and forced into exile by the apartheid regime, the IFP became the lone voice and demanded the release of Nelson Mandela. He also added that the party demanded the unbanning of all political parties during the dark days of apartheid. IFP president revealed that the government at the time could not ban the IFP because the party was founded as a national cultural liberation movement. All right, we're going to stay with that now and welcome here in studio with me, politicist Professor Mazwe Majola, as well as joining us on Teams, political analyst as well, Mazwe Bongani Mahlangu, who will be on our video wall. Professor, a very good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today. So let's start with you. 50 years of IFP existence. Let's talk about its milestones as well as achievements.
Oh yes, a monumental milestone. 50 years is not a child's play. You know, there's so many organizations or parties who have been formed and who could not even survive. So indeed, it's a legacy, and I agree. It's a legacy of perseverance, a legacy of visionary leadership, of resilience and tenacity. So the IFP is still standing, you know. Indeed, like any organization, an organization is like a person. There will be advantages and disadvantages, there will be weaknesses and strengths. So there are good things, the ANC, or rather the IFP. Then the IFP has achieved under the leadership of the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who really led the party for 44 years, since 1975 until he retired in 2019. So he led it, and as we're saying that, the times when the party was tested. You remember in 2005 there was a breakaway by the then was it Dr. Gianni, Dr. Gianni, who was then the Secretary General, who had a disagreement with the Prince, and then he broke away. They formed Nadeco with then Reverend Hau Bata. Yeah. Actually, my boss of SABC. So they started this organization in 2005. But obviously, it didn't fly. I think about 2009, it couldn't. They were tested in 2011 when another very strong lieutenant, Zanele Magwaza Msibi, when she left the party. And I remember at that time, Ms. Mangosuthu Buthelezi actually really referred her as Judas Iscariot, because he felt someone was very close to them. So they were tested, but as I'm saying, they're still standing here. 50 years.
I want to just pass that. Welcome, Bongani. Bongani, great to have you with us. Good afternoon. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the professor's views there, but what interests me is that he says the party is still standing. And I'm asking for milestones and achievements here. We understand the party has recently gone into the GNU as well as that government of provincial unity tackling the MK out of vision through the recently held, of course, national elections, even though the party actually didn't do that well, particularly in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. What can they celebrate 50 years on?
To you in studio, the Prof, the colleagues there home. Yes, we can't shy away from the fact that they have been a resilient organization. I mean, they've survived, or Mangosuthu Buthelezi would have survived Tanzima, would have survived Mangupe, and their parties, and IFP still today. Mm-hmm. But when we go down then memory lane with regards to the achievements of the party, well, the party would have led ZN, Zulu-Natal, during those days. The party did usher in terms of leadership, KwaZulu-Natal into democracy, because you would remember in 1994, IFP would have won elections to lead the province. In 1999, the IFP would have led the coalition that led the province. So they were only dismantled in 2004, when they formed the coalition. And that's actually when the ANC leadership began in that province under a coalition, and ANC would only win the province in 2009 outright. So the IFP have been a player there. When we go back into the first democratic government of this country, the original government of national unity, the IFP was present there. Mm-hmm. When the prince there was appointed as the first minister of home affairs. When we moved down memory lane, 98, you would remember he had been appointed to act as president on multiple occasions. And then when you move down, then also memory lane, I think in 99 to 2004, that the first tenure of President Thabo Mbeki, they were also government. They've had leaders such as Ben Skosana, such as now Professor Ben Ngubane, who held ministry positions. And then after 2004, they would not be represented in the executive of government, but would come back in 2024 to be represented. So they have existed there. They would have been present also as MMCs in the biggest metros of the country. That would be Johannesburg at some point, Tshwane at some point, if I'm not mistaken, the city of Eguruleni at some point. They would have been present there as MMCs, meaning leading the executive. Mm-hmm. If I am not mistaken, they are present in some form or the other in the Gauteng, which is government, which is the biggest in terms of population and also budget in the country. So, yeah, so those are some of the notable achievements we can attribute to them.
Mm-hmm. And just on that point, and maybe on a closing, a very quick one, Professor, talk about that. We've got the local government elections coming up next year, but let's look at how the party has recently been performing in some of the by-elections, particularly where it used to enjoy some of its stronghold. How do you see it faring come 2026? Because it seems like the party has somehow stopped campaigning.
Well, context is very important. I mean, as we are saying that 2014, they didn't do well in the national elections. I think they only got 14 seats at the National Assembly. And then 2019, they came back. Actually, I think it's 2019 when they got 14%, and then it last got 17%, and they've been doing well because they had this coalition with DA and KZN to local government elections or by-elections. But in terms of IFP by itself, we are yet to see really special coming next year, especially with the arrival of MKP in KZN, because it's very strong in KZN. Not well, and they're in Gauteng, but very, very strong in KZN. So
All right.
I wonder if they will be able to really
claw back that support.
Yeah,
All right.
to fight back in terms of the elections next year.
All right. Unfortunately, gentlemen, we are out of time. Bongani, thank you so much for your contributions this afternoon. That is political analyst Mr. Bongani Majola. They're joining us virtually, and in studio with me, Professor Mazwe Majola, another political expert as well as governance expert, just also weighing in on the IFP celebrating 50 years in existence.